um, 2 weeks, I've been asked to give a workshop on knowing our intrinsic bliss, being the Satchitananda, being awareness embodied as bliss, to know this, the essence of this as bliss. How do we find that? How do we let that be revealed as me, as you? How do we, what are you being? How do we know? How do we find our way? What are the breadcrumbs? Or is it just kind of a silly question? Of course we are bliss. How do we find our way to being radiant bliss, knowing it as the essence of what we are, while not excluding everything that arises, but as everything arises, if we go deep enough into it, like, what is your way? I'd love to explore that today. How we find this, or if not, how we find it, how we support each other in letting it be revealed, letting it shine through. As Goli and I enjoy Rupert Spira, he describes content becomes more and more transparent so that this being shines through. Like, how does that work in your system? And I'd love to just start with checking in, and then I'm glad to do a little guiding thing and how it, but it's just really exploring it as how do we know this? How do you know it? How do you let that be your reality as this fulfillment, as like, even beyond fulfillment, this bliss? And what's it like to soak in that? And for the parts of us that are wounded, the contraction that's here, even sickness, to allow that to soak in this essence of bliss, this beingness. And IFS, we label it as self, but this. So can we open it up and just kind of go around and see how this plays for each of us and then see where we go? How about that? What bubbles? What comes? Who wants to share first? How does that play in you?
I can go.
Goalie. And
While you
before
were,
she says anything, do we just, when we look at Goalie, do you like what she's about to tell us about? Do you already see it? Can you already see this bliss of being, this exactly the radiance that's there? Like, are you able to see it and go like, 'cause she'll help us see it better perhaps, but do we even need words to see it in our friend? Raymond's like, no way, are you crazy? Look at it. Um, hey goalie, what you got?
well, first of all, I see it radiant in all of you, really, that radiant. Um, mm, for me, what you asked are practical answer, and there is intimate answer too. For the practical, to me, what is hiding our true self? What is it that hides it? When I am not truly myself, I am not honest with myself, I have to hide it. Like in practical, in like when in relationship with each other, when I don't like something, but because of sake of someone, I say I like it, I am hiding something. So that is a shadow, that is a veil that doesn't let me to be truly myself. And it happened, I think it had happened since the childhood. Like it was part of our like raising, our parents would tell us, like, don't say that, it's not good, don't say that, especially in my culture a lot. But, and that is what hides aspects of our self in a cage and doesn't let it to shine out. And now that I know that, I need to remove all of those. And what is the step for that? To be honest with myself. Don't lie to myself. I mean, it seems I am lying for the sake of others, for love, but it's not love. When I'm lying to myself, I'm lying to others because there is no difference between me and you. Like the self is the same. So I have to be honest with myself in any second of my life. To me, that is the practical answer. But there is an intimate one too. So, and for the intimate one, there is samadhi and there is just, yeah, I start with that. Um, I mean, samadhically, what is the part of my body that without it I would definitely die? That is the heart. Like, I mean, the life comes from the heart. If you say it, like, you know it, everyone knows it. So just going to the heart, completely going to the heart, listening to the heartbeat. I mean, first it seems it's a heart, but then later you'll see it's just center of your body, just center, the center. But to go to the center, it goes from the heart. If you listen completely to the heartbeat, then all is in the mind is heartbeat. There is no thought, nothing, just the heartbeat. You can feel it, you can feel it up and down. You can feel it in your heart and in your head. And then little by little, even that goes away. And it's just complete silence. It's just absolute silence. And that's when we truly touch the self. We are one with the self. And when we come out of that state, the residue is with us. We know what we are. So when we are like in the interaction with the world of form, then I know who I am. Then I know everything is comes from that. Because if I not come up, nothing is there. First is I, then everything else. So it's like everything is in I and I am in everything else. So I see everything with that love, with the true love that I have for myself. That is the love I feel for everyone else. And there is no everyone else. I just see that absolute bliss in everything and everyone.
Let's stay with that for a moment. That last line of goalies. I just see that absolute bliss in everyone. You, what was it like to feel Goalie, to feel her now, to feel this that she's speaking of? I just see that absolute bliss in everyone. What's it like in you right now as we followed Goalie? Is there bliss here now? What's the vibration? What's the tune that's playing in you? What are you being right now? Could we just followed Goalie's concerto? And then she describes these two paths in her, this the practical and then this intimacy of hearing the heartbeat. And that even our thoughts are of that heartbeat, of that intimacy. This that you're feeling right now, all of us, does it include the thoughts? Does it include the, oh, but I've got this to do later today? Does it include it all? then Goli describes, then like from that heartbeat, we go even more intimate and there's silence. And that silence kind of reveals the essence. And then something knows. And that once you know that you don't have to be in the experience of the depth of everything is bliss to know the bliss of being. How does that translate for you? The knowing. When have you known this essence, this bliss, this heartbeat, this silence? Do you know it now? Then Goli speaks of this practical, this hiding. What is hiding this true self? Hiding this light of being, this radiance. She calls it veiling it, veiling it. How do you veil this in the name of love, in the name of caring for yourself? How do you veil this bliss, this radiance that you are? And Goli speaks of an antidote to it, a being honest and honesty. Like some of the honesty lets this come through in a practical way, and kind of one of the paths to this. And the Goli presents an honesty to myself. Some even describe it as an authenticity, like allowing this to shine through, to not be veiled. How does that play in your system? The sense of veiling this, hiding, protecting, and then an honesty and authenticity that allows the radiance of your nature, whatever flavor. And we're going playing with going all the way today to the bliss of it, or I don't know if that's going all the way. It's just kind of fun and yummy, the bliss of it. What do you have to anything to add, Goli?
No, thank you for describing it so beautifully.
Thanks for taking us here. What was that? How was that for everyone? What Goli shared? Let's just go around real quick. What was that like for you? And you can just pass, or maybe there's a word, or maybe there are a couple lines of what's coming up for you. Can I just go like Jenny, Haneen, and Raymond and see what was that like for you where Goli took us? How was it for you, Jenny?
It was beautiful. Um, and I think I would add the word, with the honesty and authenticity, at least for me, acceptance. Uh, because a lot of times that's what starts a little battle that, is adds to the veil or gives more weight to the veil. And I find it's when I just stop and stop trying to get anywhere, just stop, that things fall back, and the I guess what we're calling bliss today can come be back in without the veil. The veil tends to dissolve.
This is an adding on to Goli's practical. Jenny's adding to that. What I'm hearing, a sense of what happens when it just stops. How does that translate for each of us? Stopping, just stop. Jenny said, stop doing, stop trying to get somewhere. Just stops. Does that allow this to be revealed? This ever presence that's here. That is that point. Yes. Does that the stopping? And then Jenny used one more word. She added to Goli's acceptance. How does that play in your system? Acceptance. Does that allow what's here to start to shine more? Does that give more access to the bliss of being? Anything else, Jenny, as a response to Goalie? Then we'll go around again. But anything else there bubbling?
Yeah, just how paradoxical it is, because so often it's just trying to push away something that doesn't feel good. And as soon as there's just acceptance, the full acceptance, um, then the sun comes out again somehow. You know? Even if it feels bad, it just feels paradoxical in a way because there's that part that just wants to just keep pushing away, pushing away, pushing away.
There's acceptance. Instead of pushing away, the sun comes out again. Even if it feels bad, even if it feels bad, the sun comes out if there's not pushing away. How does that play in your system? What's it like for the sun to be out, the radiance to be here, while there's discomfort, pain, feeling bad? How does your system make sense of that? This, even if it's bliss is here and it's feeling bad, or I feel shame, wrongness, uncomfortable, not good enough. This, I should do something different. And there's this, the sun is out at the same time. Versus the moving away from, resisting. What's the difference in you? Anything else, Jenny?
No, I think that's it.
Beautiful. How are we doing as always? Like, how are you? What's it like right now? We're 15 minutes in. How are you? What's here? What's it like being you right now? Does it touch? Is the sun out? Is the sun out? Is the sun out? And what's that like? Ooh. Is the sun out? And is oh, is there also, is there any discomfort here? Any contraction at the same time? And notice you might be like, no, I don't want discomfort. I want the sun. I want that radiance. And then that's kind of the push going away from that Jenny's speaking of, the resistance. We notice that. And is it okay for that to even be here? The resistance to be here as we notice that. And is there a problem if there's discomfort, contraction? Oh, I'm really, it's late in Vietnam with Tanine. It's like I'm tired. It's like, is that a problem? If there's tiredness here, if there's discomfort, if there's stress. And before we go to Hanine, let me just do my 20 seconds that I'm a mediator, not a psychotherapist. Therapist, everybody's good, being responsible for their journeys today. If I get a thumbs up from you, and thank you. And as always, I've got it recorded. Only my image shares, and you're in control of this. If anything comes up for you, if everybody's good that this might be shared, if I can get a thumbs up from you. Wow. How are you? How are you right now? And did that, as you notice, the mind comes in the left brain? Is the sun still out? Is the sun out here? And what's the experience? Like we were using the word bliss, but what's the experience of the sun? Is it more stillness, peace, love? And can it taste the bliss that's here? What's going on, Hanine? How's this going so far?
I loved it, Goalie. The words that come to me, or if I would have to describe it in a few words, wholesome, vibrant, multi-layered, vague and detailed. It was just beautiful, and it felt like it and then Jenny, you added the acceptance to it. It felt like another layer came on top of that. That felt like I would even take that before honesty. It felt like acceptance, honesty, authenticity. It just kept on opening things until you went to the heart of the beat, that everything just goes with the beat and it's just a rhythm pretty much. And then into the oneness of it and nothingness and just absolute beauty. Thank you so much, Goli. It was so well explained within the rhythm. It was felt like it's just thank you.
And then as we're just kind of diving in and playing together, what about Haneen? What about Haneen's way of knowing this essence, this bliss of being, as you kind of play with what Goalie and Jenny have offered so far, and you think, well, you know what, I would move Jenny's up to the front, the acceptance first, and then the honesty, and then the authenticity, and then the heartbeat, and then the silence and nothingness. How does Haneen find this? Anything you'd like to share? Find this bliss?
It almost feels like it has so many doorways. It's almost like anything that's just noticed, like it can be a conversation with someone, and then there's just a glimpse of, I, I think often it can be comfort, discomfort, any sort of energy. Then it starts to go into a multi-layered way and just starts to see it plays. It's that like there is a playing that's happening then. It's a playing with perceptions, with the jump, like it's always different.
You use
Like
the word multi-layered. Tell us about that. Help us track that in us. What's that?
it can, it's the perception of separation that has it's valid, it's there, there is a person, that person is an own person, it's dense. I am in this density and everything feels dense, and then it goes more into discovering that density into layers of almost like a vibe or flavor changing of how the room appears and the self as well. So things become more within, as if everything is just happening within. That's not necessarily the next step. It can be there are so many layers. There are so many, I don't like layers or fields or perceptions of this reality. And then there's just this moment where the eyes close, and not even they don't even need to close, but that's recently something I've been playing with. The eyes close and everything just really vanishes. And it's just this recognition that everything is an appearance, including this, and therefore there is no separation, and yet it's full on love, and there's just so much that I feel sometimes when I'm in my embodiment. It feels confused, that it wants to have a structure.
Mhm.
But it's then also like hearing my voice as a separate voice, a voice simply in the room, while everything is just music and everything is just the same, in the same. Just beautiful sounds, and then it's meaningless, and then there are so many layers to it, and then there's just yeah, there's just so much to it.
Question. These layers, these fields, these levels of perception, going from density to nothingness, to sameness, to all is music. Is there one layer, one field, one dimension where the feel of this is louder, where the sense of all is love, all is bliss, all is essence, does that shine through on one layer more than another for in your system? As just where Goli spoke of, and then it's known. Then we know this. If it goes the heartbeat, then it's known when it's everything. And then it comes back out. Is there one place where it's clear for you, and just for all of us, to know this essence? Is there one perception, field, dimension, layer? What do you find, Haneen?
In the rhythm that Goli was describing, the rhythm in a, I guess the feeling, it's an inner rhythm. Can't think of another word right now that just describes it so well. It's
Where does that occur? And you kind of gave us this, you took us on this journey of this gradations. It started with, I am density. I am solid, separate density. Everything is density. And then there's a discovery. There's a going into the density and discovering some layers. And then everything is happening within. And there's the field. And then, but when I close my eyes, everything vanishes. And noticing everything is appearance. So this rhythm, feeling into this rhythm, does that happen at a certain perception in your system that it knows the rhythm?
often in bad experiences, it recognizes that, or it not only, no, not always. I'm not sure. I think um, it's something that I play with most of the time when I'm with myself, and when I'm with others, it discovers that when it's maybe going into a high or a low, like a positive feeling or a negative, where then it feels like there is something that's stimulating and then it goes into, which also is sometimes blocked. So it's not, that's an interesting question. So thank you so much. I love
Oh
it.
gosh, thank you. And then so I have a follow-up question just for all of us. Is again, where do we find this shining, or Raymond's expression? Where do we find that? What gives us access to it? This bliss, this heartbeat, this silence, this radiance. Is it when we close our eyes and there's nothing? Where do we access it? And then what, then Haneen was saying, then there's a block. What veils it? Goli spoke of shadows, veiling, not being honest. What blocks it? And then when we follow Goli, Jenny, or Haneen in this so far, can it truly be blocked? Can this rhythm, this bliss, this being, this silence, this authenticity, can it truly be blocked? And what about when we even go to where Haneen started with us with the density? It's dense. I'm separate. I'm dense. I'm separate. I'm caught in their thoughts. There's a construction. There's this. What about even there? Can even that fully veil this? Okay, I just want to encourage everybody to take a breath because we're about to go to Raymond, and you know where Raymond goes with this. So just take a just kind of rest for a minute. It's like woo! And as always, we're not going anywhere. We're just playing together as friends, right? We were all in Vietnam together. We're laying on couches in Haneen's living room, just relaxing. So not going anywhere. Nothing we have to get. Nothing we have to go to because is there any place? Well, if I go there, I'll get more bliss. Or if I get this clarity, is it, but is the bliss anywhere but here now? Really, is there any place to go for more bliss, more essence, more rhythm, more of the silence? Is there any place to go, anything to do? If we could fully follow Haneen and the beauty that she took us into nothingness and the rhythm, would there be more bliss there, more essence there than there is right now? Okay, just another relaxing right here in Haneen's living room, on the couch, hanging out, enjoying what's here. You ready? All right, Raymond, what you got for us? I can't hear it, but do we need to hear it? Can we feel the vibration of what Raymond's inviting us into? What is that tuning fork? What does that get? What is it? What happens? The tuning. So can you feel the tuning fork? The tuning fork. It'll just tune into Raymond. All you gotta do is feel it in Raymond. Feel his vibe, the tuning fork through his system, through what we see. All right, Raymond.
Actually, when you do that, right? See, when you do that, okay, like I'm doing with my hand just now, and you genuinely sense within yourself that you are sending out love, that actually happens. That if I do that, which I am, it's like kind of joking. I'm sending out the love. I am. And that's real. Everything that's been said has been glorious, isn't it? Everything, everyone, just building on. And I want to pick up on a couple of little things said. One is that orchestra analogy that you raised the word orchestra, and that made us think of music. And Oh, there's loads. I need to, so right now I'll tell you what's happening with me right now as I speak. I'm about to explode. I feel like I'm just going to go boof, right? Like this, right? Because there's so much pouring out of me about ideas and analogies, and I need to go right easy, easy. I need to sort of calm myself down a wee bit almost, because like when Haneen was describing the layers, I'm like, that's it. You got it. You don't need the words to explain it. You are it. And it is layers. It is. Even if you look at any sort of a mystic teachings or anything, there are gross layers, there's causal bodies, and there's subtle bodies, like little Russian dolls. And we are like that. And imagine at the center of this, like what Goalie was saying, right? There's a heartbeat. Boom, 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 right? But and that heartbeat to some of us, when we are in the dense frequencies of experience, it's almost like we kind of know that heartbeat. I can hear a heartbeat in the distance somewhere, and that's me just analogy, but something in us calls us. Like this heartbeat is calling us back to the center that Goalie described. And it's not the thinking psychological self that's got, in my experience, it's not separate. And actually, my own experience of little Raymond, the psychological, the emotional, the body of Raymond, that is being manifested by the self. It's not separate from the self. The self is using, it's created this musical instrument, Raymond, that musical instrument, Jenny, Sid, Haneen, Goalie, all musical instruments, and it will play whatever music it wants through it. But that practically said, so you said, how does it get lost or how does it get veiled? Well, just like that, when we're caught in, I say caught as if it's some kind of problem, when we're experiencing certain frequencies and certain spectrums of light. So it's not just frequency, it is vibration and it is light. And that doesn't block out the sun, because nothing is here except for the whole aliveness. Like Haneen said, the wholesomeness of it that Goalie manifested.
Let me push it. Let me push the edge a little bit with this as you're describing this. What about bliss? What about bliss itself, Raymond?
So again, bliss to me is what Goalie described very well. Bliss is just when I'm undisturbed by any electrical frequency or vibration. And let me be honest again, there are other energies that are not to do with us, that aren't psychological. There are other spiritual energies that are dark. They're dark energies, and we are protected in the light. I'm not trying to scare anyone by saying that. These dark energies cannot. Have you seen the scene in Spider-Man where they ring the big bell and Venom splits apart from itself? The frequency of light is painful to these dark energies. They can't come in. They can't come into that energy because it's like what Goalie said about shadows and honesty. Whenever one of our honest shadows comes into the light, it just gets loved and it disappears. It just gets, and for me, that's the bliss is always bliss. There's always sun in the sky. And I thought about, there's a little verse, there's a lot of verses in the Bible, but this one is, it basically says, and Ramana Maharshi Nisargadatta said this, how do you remember something you've lost? The keys, something, anything. You keep it in mind. You trace your steps. When did I last see that? right? And it's almost like that. And even the appearance of a thought in your mind that says, I want to get close to bliss. That's bliss. It's bliss that's making that thought appear. So
Okay.
we're not doing it. Yeah. So it's like love itself. A last one said, I promise, last one, right? And I watched this as I watched Goalie to Jenny to Haneen. You know how that game you play and we wrap a present up lots and lots of times and it gets passed round and everybody takes a wrapper off, but it's still wrapped up. It's still a present. That's what bliss does with us. It wraps us up in stuff because it loves to unwrap, and eventually you become the gift. And there's no separating. You're like, oh, that was fun. Like a game, like a Christmas game, like a game of being a beautiful gift that you're slightly hidden by. And you're doing both of these things as the self and the small self. And then you're revealing, taking back the layers, like Shrek said with the onion, right? And Haneen said, and what I've touched on esoterically a little bit, we're put into these layers because love loves to find lost things. So it makes them lost and forgets where it put them, so to speak, and then goes and finds them and loves the whole lost and found process.
So much, so much. So what's this? I need to just check with everyone. What's that like? Or how much of this could you follow? Could you go on the trip with Raymond, that journey? What was that like? What was that like? Unwrapping, gosh, unwrapping, and to reveal bliss. Unwrapping. How does your system unwrap as we pass the gift around to reveal this essence? Raymond said, the sun is always here. This beingness, this bliss is always here. Is that real for you? How do you know that? How do you know it? Always here. Then we play with this, but and then there's a but. Raymond said there's a but here with bliss. When I'm undisturbed by frequency, vibration, undisturbed, the sun, we can see the sun, the bliss. And we go back to what this thing we've been playing with, when it's veiled for us, when there's a shadow, when it's blocked. And Raymond speaks of frequency and vibration that can block it. The hide and seek game. Where did it go? Where are those keys? Find my way back. But what blocks or veils the true, if this is the true nature, but whatever we want to call this being, how does it get blocked or veiled for you? Raymond speaks of frequency and vibration. And then Raymond also spoke of this light and the possibility of darkness. Dark energies that can block this. And so what's your version of that on that level of how it's blocked by, or maybe it's just like Haneen, the density that Haneen describes. Does that block it? What blocks it? Contraction, fear, what blocks this in your system? We're gonna go deep. We're gonna go through this, and we're not gonna stop here. But just whatever these words evoke for you, dark energies, vibrations, frequencies, veils, blocks, contractions, fear, and how at one level, Rupert Spira, who Goli and I spend time with, he'll call it, then he can call this kind of he'll call even this a concession. The idea that this can be blocked. But the reality for most of us of experiencing the sun coming out and the sun disappearing, being hidden. But can we find this other level where we're with the density, we're with the vibrations that distract, we're with the veils, and we're even with what we might label as dark energies. And we get a little closer to it. We use Goli's word, intimacy. What happens when we're intimate with the veils, the blocks, the dark energies? What do we find even there? And you don't have to agree with me on this. This is just an experiment in playing. But what do you find there? Does it reveal that this essence is the same in everyone and everything, even with this that seems to block it? Let me open this up, Raymond, to see what our friends have, and then we'll come back to you on this and come back to you with this. How are we doing with that? How's everybody doing? That was a whole lot. I mean, just to follow Raymond was a whole lot. Then I just added all this stuff to it. How are we doing? Let's go around real quick just to check, because this is a lot. This is heavy. It's like, whoa, I just want to lay on Haneen's couch. Why are we doing what's heavy? We just want to relax. Can we go Goalie, Jenny, Haneen, and Raymond? How you doing, Goalie? And you feel free to pass. It's like, hey, Sid, I'm just resting on Haneen's couch.
No, I feel excited. Everyone talks so beautifully. I loved when Raymond said, when we unwrap the present, unwrap, and then we find that the present is ourself, is myself. That was so beautiful. No, I'm very excited and I want to listen. Thank you.
And in the silence before we go to Jenny, what's there? How's that for your system? That arises in the silence. Maybe there's a little anxiety, a little excitement. Is that anything but this? What are you being right now? What are you? Jenny, how you doing? What's going on?
I love the present analogy in the high. There's a layer when dark energy comes over me, there's a layer that adds another layer of darkness that is saying, you've already dealt with that. This should be gone. Just, what's your problem? Yeah, so like an added dark layer and flowing with the life experiences as just energies that need to move to keep revealing, hides so that you can seek again, and that this love, this bliss wants to be found. Yeah, I don't know, that really landed for me.
Know that. How does it, this love, this bliss wants to be found? I forgot if it was Raymond that was describing like a pull of it. What's that like for you? How do you feel that attraction or that knowing, this love, this bliss wants to be found? How is that real in Jenny's system?
When that heavy energy is there, it can be really disorienting. I feel like I can lose it temporarily. And again, it's only when there's, acceptance and the honesty and the authenticity about it that then there's like a surrender that then lets the love move in. just moves in after that.
This is playing for all of us. What's the pull? How do we know this pull, this gravity, this attraction, if that is real in your system? How do you know that towards love, bliss, home? And
I
then
think
Jenny
grace,
oh, sorry.
grace is another word that comes in at that moment.
Mhm. Jenny describes some of those words back to Goldie's words, like this honesty, authenticity, and even towards surrender that helps her system kind of find its way back. Or those words, they resonate in your system, finding our way back, pull back. And then Jenny also describes there's a layer, a heavy energy layer that comes that can kind of obscure this heavy energy. She even used the word a layer of darkness sometimes. And then a part that comes up and says, you have a part like this, you've already dealt with this. This should be gone. What's your problem? Like something's like it doesn't seem like a cartoon character in that voice, like that. What's your problem? You already dealt with it. What's going on? It's like, isn't it sweet? Can we find a sweetness in that voice that Jenny shared? And can you find the sweetness when that voice comes in your system? Or does it, even when it sounds harsh, because they'll sound harsh sometimes, right? This voice of the critic, this spiritual achiever, like, what's wrong with you? You know better than this. You've already handled this. Can we find the sweetness of it? And then one more question. Is it a problem when that layer comes back? That heaviness, experience of darkness, this obstruction that blocks the sun, that blocks this. Is that a problem that needs to be solved? And notice what says yes to it. It's just a part that says, of course, that's a problem. We love the radiance. We love the bliss. We love our nature. We love the sun. This blocks it. But can you find that that's a part? That's just a voice. It's just a perspective that sees a problem here with the heaviness, this perception of darkness, whatever obscures this density. That the only thing that would find a problem with it is like a spiritual achiever, one that's trying to help you. Jenny, how's it going? How you doing with this before we jump to Haneen? How you doing?
Good. Good. I'll admit that it's still hard to love that the harsh voice, the harsh part. It's hard. It's hard for me to direct love. And I know well, anyway, it just is.
I wanna pause there for a minute. Because we might be the spiritual achiever, might be like, yes, if we should be able to love that part, that voice that says, we've been here before. We should be dealing with this? What's your problem? But I want to suggest that there's in the IFS model, there's something beneath that. There's a reason for that harshness. And there's an innocence in that. And there's something beautiful here, right? We call it protectors, this harshness. And the reason there's a protector there is that there's a vulnerability beneath it. And you might be able to feel it. Like, who feels that harshness? The one that doesn't, I don't like this harshness. Oh gosh, this is so mean. I don't like this. Can we find like the vulnerability beneath that? And often there's some wounds beneath it, right? That we kind of, that it's weird. Like the harshness is coming to protect our wounds, but then they end up re-wounding us and we feel the harshness of it. And this is where in IFS we say it's impractical to just say, well, just don't do that harshness anymore. Stop that voice. Stop protecting. There's a reason it's there. And if we can, even like with Goalie's intimacy, like how intimate can we be with all of this? Can we really see the beauty in these voices that arise in us, even the harshness? And that's, I think that goes back to Jenny's word, the acceptance. It's almost like the acceptance of what is. Like we can really see in IFS, we say everything that arises is there to serve us. It's doing its very best to serve us. Even the, what's wrong with you? You shouldn't be doing this anymore. This shouldn't be here. Like the innocence and that one's there to serve us. And then we touch the vulnerability beneath it and we can see all of that. Just as it's so much easier for us, likely, Jenny, than it is for your system, where we're just falling in love with you and falling in love with everything that's arising. It's just, it's, you know, the exquisiteness of it. It's much different when we're in it ourselves. And that's, hopefully that's part of the value of our being together. As we fall in love with Jenny, it makes it more easy to fall in love with everything that arises within us, our harshness. Final words, Jenny? Anything else? As you've been in the spotlight, it's like, okay, said enough. Please go to Haneen.
I'm following everything you're saying, and it's resonating. So yeah.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
for taking us. Thanks for taking us there for all of us. We all got to follow in our own systems. Thank you so much. Okay, how are we? How are you? How are you doing? You better enjoy it because we're gonna go back to Raymond, and I know he's got things to say on this. So like we're just hey, so how are we doing? How are you? What's it like being you? Because we're gonna go to Haneen in just a minute. And what are you being? What are you being? Is that radiance? Is the sun here right now? Is there bliss here? And what's obscuring it? Is there density? Is there contraction? And in all of that, is there a problem? Is there a spiritual achiever that says, hey, I want more of that sun, more of the bliss? Like, what's here? How are you? How's it going, Haneen?
So much coming up. I love it. I loved Raymond's explosion, or what you call it. It was more like the firework of like boom, 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 boom. At the same time, it was easy listening to it. It's so interesting to see when it's on a specific frequency of, or like a frequency of truth, it can be filled with a million words at once, and it's just so much, and it's yet so easy listening to because it's not really word by word. It's just that whole message arrives on a very different level, and that's so fascinating to just see how communication, like I love to explore how communication actually works wordless, while we think this is actually reaching it only through words. It's vibrations, it's frequency, it's beautiful. And I've been a bit unsure whether I should speak of dark energies or not, because it can be dark. And maybe that's just something that's not wanted to be seen, or not wanted, that's not as welcomed as it. Sit.
Oh,
Nice.
thank you. I'd like to say that for me, it's so welcomed here. All of it, all of it, all of it.
To me, it's almost hidden, and it's very well disguised as truth often. So often in spirituality, I see a lot of darkness. And it's disguised. It's very well disguised. Like it's very well played that it's misleading. And it's so common. And it's not only, I mean, I speak of spirituality because it's there a lot. It's almost everywhere. And it's hidden and yet not hidden at all. And therefore it's so easy to unsee. And it's on a specific frequency that feels is disturbing. So in my experience, it hasn't been possible to hold essence or like the beingness 100%. It just keeps on going into some layers, and in some layers it can be words. Everything has meaning, as you said, Raymond. Everything is so powerful, and it has a collective energy to it. It can be fed by many things that these energies penetrate. And what I've been learning and practicing and playing with is to wake up this inner player again of playing with energy, playing internally, playing just with pushing this energy, like as you said, with the hands, and you can feel the love, either blocking it in me, playing with it, moving it around, just bring that, like activating that, playing with all the energies that are here, and yet not being fully foolish and naive in
Oh, oh, let me unlock this. Oh, there she is. Good.
that's kicked out. Not fully naive in the embodiment of this being that has where certain energies can be stuck and then turn into something that is not, like, let it be disease, let it be anything, let it be just, because all of it carries all frequencies, and energies carry information as well. So I feel this is just something to discover and learn and play with simultaneously. It can be a bit much. It can go in just everything, and it's just so many fields and so many things. So not losing sight of
Let me check
present.
in with everybody, Henny, just to be gentle with this, because this is a lot, right? But what about darkness? What about really recognizing whatever we label in our system as darkness or in the world as darkness? And Haneen says we don't want to be naive here. We don't want to be naive. We don't want to just use spiritual terms. And we see a lot of darkness in spiritual. What about that? How are we doing? Do we have parts that come up? It's like, I really don't want to go there. This is scary. I don't want to touch this. Like, notice parts that come up like that. That maybe this is, no, I really like the sun. I don't want to I don't want to get too close to darkness. And I want to suggest to listen to those parts. I want to suggest to honor those parts. Because often in this spiritual journey, there's a sense of, no, we just need to go deeper. We need to go deeper. We need to pierce through it all. There's a reason that we have protectors. That's like, whoa, I don't know if I want to touch that. That was traumatic, or that was really bad, or God, we might label things as evil. However that shows up in us, like, be gentle with the precious humanness that we are. Be gentle with precious you. And then I'm just gonna throw some couple questions in here, but you don't need to go here with this, because is there a problem? Is it a problem that there's darkness, that there's density, that there's contraction? Is it a problem? Is it a problem? And notice what says yes. And we just welcome those aspects of us that say yes. And then there's this essence. And then I want to go back to Haneen here, because I don't want to. It's so easy in spiritual land here to focus on just the sun, especially bliss. We were focusing on bliss and love, to focus just on that. And I think it's really, there's something so honest, back to Goli's word, honesty, in including absolutely everything, and the gift of what Haneen's doing, and pointing to the density, this whatever we experience as darkness, But then again, lastly, again, don't push it. Don't push your system in this way. It's not necessary. It all opens in its own little organic way that we take care of our vulnerability, right? You don't want to, there's a reason that there are parts of us that are still in the shadows that are kind of locked down in safe places. There's a reason, and we don't need to open it up and say, hey, here's the world. We don't want to do that to us. How's it going, Haneen?
I agree with you. Yeah, it's very important to cherish these parts that say, okay, this is a lot, and I can even feel parts in me when speaking of it that almost download instantly like a sort of heaviness, or like when speaking of that heaviness, it can feel that heaviness a little bit. So it in my system now, I'm playing with it more. I'm accepting it and seeing it, and it's there, and it's okay for it to be there more and more. Is my connection okay? It just said,
95%. Yeah.
okay. It just said it's unstable. But also playing at the same time. So while showering, imagining things to come off, setting intentions, just that is just something that I'm reintroducing into my system, and that's
Uh-oh. She'll bounce back in. Give her a minute. In the meantime, how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing?
I'm sorry. I've just connected to my other router now.
Okay.
Um,
Let me just pause for just a minute here, Neen, with this. It's like, again, how's everybody doing? And can we also appreciate, I mean, I had a wonderful childhood, but still horrible things happened to me. I had a horrible experience as a kid. And this was like just, it's what they make movies about some of my childhood. It was very loving, and it was, but still it was all kinds of horrible things happen. And just for those horrible things that happen that we experience in our vulnerability, can we also see how those parts of us are like, can't trust the world, it's bad, it's dense, it's dark, these aspects of us that find that. And we don't want to make those parts of us wrong, right? We just want to love them and welcome them just the way they are. Back to you, Anine.
yes. And at the same time, there is this being here that perceives things the way it wants to. It perceives it on an acceptant level. At the same time, is it the doer? Is it it's just something that plays along with it. It dances along with it. It moves with it. It loves to go in this direction because it enjoys this, in that. And that's just for me, that's evoking more. And what I see is often um, the acceptance of bad energy or like dark energies and certain things. But it was one thing that the player that's there simultaneously was missing a little bit, that it can play with that, it can move, it can bend it,
Yes.
it's
So,
in total control of my perception. So I'm
mhm.
I'm
Some,
here.
So what about that? What about this? Just what about what Haneen's saying there? Like she's talking about different layers, but she talked earlier, layers, perceptions, and that there's an aspect of us perhaps that doesn't even see darkness. It just sees it all as the sun. Maybe this is the depth of self that something can see that, the beingness, the love that shines through. And then Haneen's thinking something else that has a sense of control, that it can kind of change my experience, what I'm perceiving, what's happening, like these different perspectives. And then there's the other perspectives of from parts of us from very real, where that sees no, that's not safe, that is bad, the world is this. And just, can all of that coexist? What's it like? Because the last thing we want to do is try to override and say make something in us wrong. It just gets to be welcomed. I'm not sure if I'm hearing you fully, Haneen. How are we doing in hearing what you're saying?
It's those simultaneously, like perceiving them simultaneously while being aware of there is a individuality here that I felt like I would easily lose in the field of that openness. And I wouldn't even know where am I, where is everything else, which is a beautiful thing. At the same time, it needs that individuality as well that moves in the perception of time and space as well, and place and enjoys, and not only in the time and space realm, and just, that creates, that plays with that.
Nice.
And that's often, I feel like that dark energies block that we just remain stuck and keep on seeing the same thing over and over again without having at the same time the player that loves to just bend and enjoy, and that
Yeah.
I am that is here.
I'm also wanting to check in before we hear from Raymond, but I wanted to check in because this is a lot of sharing that you're doing here, and I'm wanting it, like, can you just the support and the care and the love for your system, just the way it is, and the welcoming and the enjoyment of Haneen as she's it's much easier to talk about the light than the darkness, right? Like I've been talking, and so Haneen's been balancing us out today, but there's a vulnerability in doing that because in speaking about it, these are, it's a vulnerability in sharing that. And wanting our love, our support, our care, and welcoming and appreciation to be here for your system as you've shared this. And then we'll see where Raymond goes with all of this. How you doing, Haneen? And then we'll open it up because I'm sure Goldie and Jenny have things bubbling because you've really taken us to this exquisite place.
Thank you so much for listening and for holding the space and allowing this to be here.
How are we all doing? How are we? What is that touch? How are you? What's here? What's here in each of us? It's like, well, that was scary because it touches, all that in me. And can it be welcomed? How you doing? Raymond, what you got for us?
I'm going to go in a couple of wee minutes, Sid, but I don't want to actually move away far from what Haneen's saying. So I'll share a couple of things practically about what both Jenny touched on and Haneen. And the first thing I'll say is don't go looking for dark things. Don't pursue that in any. You don't need to. Presence will bring into light anything that's required. And what you said, Sid, as well there is very wise about we've got these protector parts and things like that. So, sometimes, the self, whatever that is, it protects as well. So, and again, like frequency. So we kind of need to it's like climbing a mountain. If you went straight to the top of Everest into the death zone, you'll die, right? So this is a bit the same. Just let the self take you higher to higher frequency, and don't worry about whatever level you think you're on. Don't be overtly concerned about that. And again, words that you're using, Sid, like gentleness. So the self is not in the least bit, there's no fear about any of this stuff in the self. And on a very practical level, I did have quite a traumatic childhood, right down to being a baby, right, traumatic from then, abuse at that age and violence when I was a teenager and witnessing murder and all this kind of stuff. So I've had some really heavy, energetic experiences. None of it is near me. None of it. But all of it, the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, whatever those dark aspects of self, I have experienced them very, very deeply. And the only way that they transform is the self will very lightly, it won't. And again, one of the best analogies I've ever heard for this process is what Jesus said. Jesus said, if you see someone with a speck of dust in their eye, remove the plank from your own eye first. I'm not talking about dust and planks here. I'm talking about how delicate eye surgery is. So when these areas that we consider this or that or whatever, they need a lot of love and care. It's like that box you see, handle with care, fragile, right? So that's what I'm finishing on here, Sid. And I love what you're sharing, Haneen, and it's very authentic. Same with yourself, Jenny. The self will never judge that darkness as a wrong thing, ever. If you ever hear that voice saying, oh, that's not the self, that's just part of the psychological story. But the self is love is the only answer for transforming these dark things. And we don't need to be overtly concerned about them. The self is our protector, Sid. To your point, the self will protect. And don't go focusing on dark on your own, if I can say it like that. Don't travel anywhere. Always go in twos. You and the self, travel together. Don't even be, I'm not trying to be alarming here at all. I'm just trying to be gracious, as Jenny's word says. And grace will always be very tender-hearted, and it doesn't treat us as we think these things deserve. So I'll end on that point there, Sid. So I think it's a great discussion. Just be careful. Just be full of care.
Yeah.
Careful.
Yeah.
Full of care.
Thank you, Raymond.
And and be very gentle with yourself. Nothing that's said is certainly not strange to me. And maybe sometime we can have a bit of a deeper chat. I'll tell you some stories that will make your hair curl. So, so don't worry about that. None of this is strange to me at all. Not in the least. It's actually really beautiful. It's beautiful to hear it. And even your desire to touch upon the honesty, it's beautiful. And in its time, it will be loved into the light. And you won't do it. You'll just find yourself falling in love again. Okay? Namaste, folks. Take care, okay?
I'd like to suggest that I think the theme I'll throw out for next week is the darkness, the heaviness, the density. And I love what Raymond just said about handle with care. Like, we can feel the tenderness we all have for Haneen's system with what she's shared, but it's like not just, I don't know, we put no spotlight on Haneen. It's like we really stayed with her, it's the tenderness we have for our own systems, because there's nothing she said that I can't find here. The tenderness with that, and not needing to bypass it or make it change or be different, to welcome it. So God, we've got 11 minutes left. How's this going with Jenny and Goli with what Haneen shared with us? How you doing inside you?
It just something came up to my mind. I wanted to share. Like, if we realize that everything that we talked about, or everything or we realize in ourselves, everything, it happens in the mind. Like from the beginning, we said, let's accept our parts. Where this acceptance happens, it happens in our mind. We said, be honest to ourselves. Where does it happen? Everything. So we came up to darkness. Even that happens in the mind. We can't say, oh, there is darkness out there. But where do we judge it as dark? We judge it in the mind. And the good and bad is not like, we cannot say night is bad, day is good. We know they both need each other to exist. So for when the darkness exists in the mind, it's like a shadow. When I see that it's only exists in my mind, then it goes away, because the light of knowing, the light of that awareness comes and shines it through. So there is no darkness anymore. And when I'm again, the honesty, when I'm completely honest with myself and there is no shades, so I'm transparent. Even if there is a darkness out there, it passes through me. There is nothing to resist it, or there is nothing to judge it or anything. It just passes through. It doesn't touch me. So what I'm saying is just the key is this realization, is this awareness that everything is happening in my mind. Bad and good are judgments. Dark and light are judgments. They can be just, and that knowledge, that awareness is the love that Raymond was saying, the love that just shines through.
Wow. What's that like, to be with Goli, to follow that? And can we find that, just as Haneen was saying, that's one perspective, when we can know it that way. There's no resistance, there's no judgment. Everything just moves through. That's one perspective. And then equally, there's these other perspectives. There's this, what are you talking about? No way. I know what the world is this way. There's this darkness, this density, equal. It's there. Just to don't, because the spiritual achiever, often a spiritual achiever can say, what Goli said, that's it. That's all we want. Anything that's not what Goli said, that's wrong. We got to push it aside. We got to not give attention to it. What's it like when everything is welcome? But just where Haneen was leading us, these multiple perspectives simultaneously. And then at the same time, how much can we enjoy what Goli just offered us? Jenny, how you doing?
So well said, Goli. And just adding on, we're in Earth School and things show up, and I know in my heart that life doesn't give us more than we can handle. I think as children, sometimes it feels that way, that we were, when we're at an age where you don't have the perspective and things feel overwhelming and they get rooted in our system. And if things stay in the present, taking things as they come and go, I just think it's what's needed right now. Whatever comes in is the lesson. Yeah. I mean, I have a strong faith and belief, or I don't know if it's a belief. I don't think it's a belief. I feel like I just know it in my bones that life's not going to give more than I can handle. That the love of self is vast.
The love of self, the love of this being, this is vast. Nothing's going to be too much. Nothing can be too much for that. If we can find that, nothing can be too much for this vastness of this love that we are, this being.
I think the protector parts need to hear that sometimes. The protector parts can come in and just feel like, oh no, it's too much. Yeah, the parts.
And what's that like for our parts, these aspects of us, our humanity, our dear precious humanity, when there's a recognition that nothing is too much for beingness, nothing is too much for this love. Nothing can be too much for this love that we are. So it's something that we get to rest in. Anything else, Jenny?
Nothing else for now.
Oh, good, because we have a few minutes left, and I'm curious how this is all playing for Haneen, especially the vulnerability and the clarity. How are these levels and layers working inside of you with all now? How are you?
Good. I really appreciate what you both just shared, Willie and Jenny. And for my system, there is in acceptance almost like a little bit of stagnancy. This is what it feels like. It's almost as if it's not fully flowing. When I evoke that player in me a bit more, it starts to get into without necessarily exercising or doing anything actively, that there is a more movement going. Otherwise, it almost is like a what am I perceiving here? And then it can easily stand still also in an embodiment on the more dense levels, I would say, where it goes into perceiving everything energetically and feeling it. So that's for me the where I felt like in life I felt this stagnancy even in my situation of work of everything. It's just wishing for something else, observing that wish, but still a stagnancy that doesn't know how to move the energy, how to learn to play with it. And but yes, it's all love and there is no darkness. Yet, for me, there is on other levels still things that I observe, and at first they're not fully multi-layered, especially when it's a part that is hiding so well and that I discover it doesn't have it the multi-layeredness shows up a bit later, like not instantly always, like it just takes some time, and in that moment it's separated. It feels dark, how it perceives, how it feels, and then it's seeing that and playing with it, and through that play, that flexibility, it brings the more layers into it, so it can either go from full on, like from self onto all the layers, or the other way around, from density the way back, or sometimes in between and then here and there. It's always different. And some stay stuck for a longer time and don't recognize. Just
Let me just
see.
check in. This isn't just Haneen, right? Where we go, and then it's in density, and then there's stagnation. It gets stuck there, and can't see the multi-level perspectives. It sees darkness, and then there's space. Then there's use the word play. There's this play, and it opens it up and opens the energy moving, and then there's stagnation again. Just where can we see her as facilitating us into how this is all real in our systems. And by her vulnerability, it helps us find the tuning for it to find it in each of us as well. We are out of time, and Haneen, any final words?
Sid, what about you? Give us some final words of what's going on for Sid. What is if everyone has a few minutes, I would love to hear
I will just.
what you're seeing, what you're
It
feeling.
feels so courageous. It feels so courageous. I am just kind of in awe of where we went. Like the bliss, that's not courageous. That's just like, diving into the love of the sun, right? For me, it's just like that. But the courageousness is, to me, is going to the other side of this, where we went, where you pointed us in need. And it's because I can still find fear in my system in touching some of these places, right? The ideas of darkness, contraction, density, and the fear that comes up. And it's like, it's so rich and interesting for me that, and at the same time, I just want to keep emphasizing to myself. I mean, I'm speaking to me, that they're not pushing it, not needing, no, we need to heal everything. Everything needs to come to the light. The heart of darkness needs to become the light of the heart of love. And it's like, oh, those are great ideas, Sid, but there's also the sense of the gentleness with what's here, the gentleness with our precious humanity, right? The precious humanity. And I love that. And I'm just so grateful, Haneen, that you're willing to do, and all of us, where we went with all of this, all of it, my gosh, today. And so for me, it's all very personal. All, everything. As Jenny shares that voice of, why are you going back here? You know better than like I know the same voice, and I love this sense of including all of these voices in us, including them, and like, can they all be loved and adored and welcomed without pressure to change? Like, can I really adore how this is? It's so much easier to adore it in Haneen, Jenny, and Goli, like to truly adore the expressions of Sidness, all these voices, all the parts, all these expressions. And I'm loving that. I mean, this is a favorite, what we did today. This is a favorite of groups, and I'm also loving the sense of really opening the door more to the heaviness, the shadows, and all of that as not a problem. Not that, hey, here we go to bliss and love and light. No, here it's all equal. It's all included. It's all this precious humanity of what we are. How about that for a finale? Good. Oh, thank you guys for co-creating this magic today. I loved it so much, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Henry. Bye.